This episode is sponsored by Zenro Clothing Co. Pick up your tees and or accessories at zenroclothingco.com and be sure to use offer code SOCRATES at checkout for 20% off select items. Also, if you're not into spending the money, just check out the Zenro radio playlist. zenroclothingco.com, music for your everyday. This episode also sponsored by The Pornian Bakery. If you're located in the Pornian area of Scarborough, Toronto, be sure to check out The Pornian Bakery, say what's up to Arville, and pick up a donut or two. Baked daily, crafted with love. This episode also sponsored by Podbean. Podbean is the podcasting platform of choice. It's the one that me and Vish use, and is great. You know, if you're looking to start that DIY podcast yourself, definitely check out Podbean. Use the link podbean.com/SocraticGamers and gain 1 month of unlimited podcasting for free. Test it out, build that content. Anyone could podcast, right, Vish?
Yep.
Start a podcast and get your ideas out there. All right, enjoy the episode. Cool. All right, so we have a bit of a short podcast this week. I got to run to this jiu-jitsu open mat, so we're going to keep it very, very tight on time. So I'm going to jump into the biggest thing, and then if we have time, we'll talk about the smaller things after. But this one was pretty crazy, and I wanted to talk to you about it because I was like, oh, this could actually be what it is. So I was listening to this UFO podcast, dude, and American Alchemy again, and he was saying about one reason why you'd want to keep disclosure. Okay, so we've always been talking about like catastrophic disclosure wrecking the economy, right? Because it's like, oh, if you suddenly introduce like a new power source and we're running off oil, it's like, oh, well, that's the end of our thing, like our like economic structure. But like, maybe that's true. Like that's the most practical thing that we agreed upon. But I want to get your opinion on this one, and this one was like kind of freaky. So you know how like everything that we create is actually a thought in our head first.
Mm-hmm.
Like right, think about it. Like every single thing, like the iPhone, the mics that we're using, they're all like some like idea. You're like, oh, okay, that's the thing I could make, and then you like end up making it, right?
Yeah.
So that is like your vision manifesting in reality.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like essentially, we can call it that, right? Like your vision manifesting in reality. Okay, so what they know now about through quantum physics is that everything is a potential until you see it. So that's why. That's why they say that everything renders, like our reality renders according to what we see. Mm-hmm. So remember that like superposition thing where like an atom can be in all states at one time,
right?
Like until witnessed. Like once the observer's there, the observer, like they call it collapsing the wave function. Basically what that means is like it's in this infinite potential state, and then once you see it, it becomes a thing. So like the cup isn't really a cup, it's a potential of being or the best one, Schrodinger's cat. Like, right, is the cat alive or dead, or is it both? Behind the box, right? Like they put the cat in the box and they're like, oh, is it alive or dead? And they say like it's in all states at once until you view it. Mm-hmm. Right? And you're like, well, that makes no sense. But through quantum physics, they're like, okay, but that is what particles do. And that's where you and I were like, wait, is there free will? Because it's like, are you choosing, one way that they put it was about free will is like, it'll collapse into the most easiest, like, form. So that's why it'll typically follow the deterministic path because that's the easiest path for it to follow, right? Like think about like electricity, right? It's like, which is the easiest path? It's just going to follow that one, right? But it does technically have infinite potential, supposedly, according to the mathematics, okay? So we're all good on that one? Because now I'm about to twist it on its head. Okay, so check this out. The guy said this. He said, if that's true, then what happens if you believe something to be so real, then it becomes real? And I was like, wait, what do you mean? And he was saying that maybe the reason why they don't want to disclose it is because what if it is like demons, right? And once we fully believe in demons, we can't stop seeing them.
Right.
Like that could be a reason to keep disclosure, actually. You know, because like what he's saying is they might be from a different dimension and they can't cross over into our physical reality until we make it physical. But the only way to make it physical is collapsing the wave function. But how do you collapse the wave function? We have to believe it so much that it forces it into reality, right? What do you think about that? Like
And
logically, it makes sense, or like no, I mean like no, like not saying it's real or not. It's just a proposed theory because he's like, well, what is another reason why he'd want to keep disclosure? And then he proposed this one, and I was like, dude, what? He is an author though, so like of course you're putting out hypotheticals. So you and I are both like, okay, realistically, it's about oil, right? But then like this other possibility of like, what if they are the only way they can cross over is if we collapse the wave function into them and then they become real because we've believed them, just like the iPhone. It's like it started with an idea in your head and then you made it real. But like the mechanism for making it real is like we worked hard to make it, right?
sure.
But if there's another way to do it, which is like you believe it to be real, then it becomes real. Oh wait, oh damn. Freaking every time we talk about something like esoteric, it always like fireworks. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right.
But like you're following the logic though, right?
Yeah, I
It sounds
understand. I understand what
crazy,
you're
but it's like,
saying. Sure.
what?
Right.
Okay, all right. Now take it to the next level. I was listening to this dude who's an exorcist. Okay, remember my uncle in the Philippines is an exorcist. I always wanted to talk to him, but they're like, "Oh, it's kind of rude, like like because you might be
Yeah.
mocking it." But I'm like, I'm not trying to mock. I really want to know, like, what is this exorcism you're talking about? So Sean Ryan had an exorcist on his podcast, and then he was talking about it, and he was saying like how there's like angels and demons all around us at all times, right? Like, but they enact through us our will, their will. So like, where does a thought come from?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You know what I'm
Consciousness.
saying?
Yeah. Sure.
Right? Like our consciousness is like we're just witnessing, right? You can literally just watch your thoughts. That's what meditation teaches you, right? Like it's like, oh, that's a thought, right? It's like the clouds and then there's the sky behind. The consciousness is your sky, and then the clouds are like the thoughts. Right? That's why you can watch them pass by. So what he was saying is like they put thoughts in our head all the time. Like
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I've
good
heard that.
good and
Yeah.
evil. And I'm like, dog. And then you just follow that path. You're like, oh, I thought it must be true. But that's what happens when you're like, oh, my ideas are my identity. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like with that in mind, and then you look at like anime, Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm watching this one like Devil Man Crybaby right now, and it's about like demons and stuff. And it's like a new anime. But
Yeah. I thought I saw it somewhere. I didn't see it, but like
like
the
maybe
name
like
is
Netflix or
familiar.
something.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah. It came out like kind of recently. It's a remake of an old anime, but like just think about those concepts. It's like, is that what's going on too? Like, are there when they say interdimensional beings, is it like are there things trying to put thoughts in our head? Because there's a machine, and this is a real machine that the CIA created, where they they can make you. So what they're saying is like there's a non-harm weapon now. So what it is, it uses sound waves to make it feel like your body's on fire or to make you think certain thoughts.
Yeah.
Right, you heard of this, right? Bro. Okay. So like when they said we can put thoughts in your head, I'm like, okay. So where like I think that's why you need the ultimate discernment of being able to distinguish thoughts from reality or like thoughts from you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you remember when we were kids and we play with like the birds in your tree? Remember, like I would like always whip like stones at them. It's
Sure.
terrible, terrible. Like you're a kid, you're just like, what are you doing? But like, what was that thought? And I just attached that thought. Let's make it a reality. Let's see what happens. Remember? And then we had like that bird funeral. Like Wob had like a
Yeah.
21 water
Right.
gun salute. You remember that? Yeah. So it's like, but what pushed you to do that? Is a thought that entered in your head, and then you're like, oh, I should follow that path. But it's like, what's the thought? Did you have the sentience to be like, maybe this is not the smartest idea, you know?
Right.
And then you get it. I'm just like down, like emoting to you because it's been a crazy week of like thinking about this. I'm like, maybe that is what is happening. The collapse of the wave function or like creating things into reality. It's like these thoughts just enter your head and then you just manifest them into a thing, you know? And then I was talking to Tara about about like I don't know how to put this politely, but like socioeconomic early births.
Hmm.
Remember, like we know people through the socioeconomic class, like they've had like births at a young age. And then I was like, yeah, it's just if you educated them, whatever. And then Tara was like, but they also don't have, like scientifically, they don't have the ability to rationale consequence because your hormones are so high, your prefrontal
Sure.
cortex isn't like fully developed. And I was like, that's true because like think about our childhood when we like biked through the forest, and we're like, oh, we could have totally died.
Hmm.
But you're like, oh, we're not gonna die. You know, like, oh, well, like go down that hill as fast as possible without a helmet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, right? Like, remember we used to bomb down the hill and used to do the genie,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You used and then like, but we weren't freaking thinking, bro. Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
it was scary, but you're just like, yeah, it's fine, it's fine. Like, you would do like the no hands bike down the hill
Yeah.
as
There's no
fast as you
idea
could,
of
and we try and
consequence. Yeah. There's no idea of
right,
potential consequence. Yeah. Sure.
right. But then you're like, but then if they're putting these in our head, but people, the thing is this: you have, if through like spiritual growth or like understanding yourself, you could either realize that your thoughts are not who you are, or you just keep going down that path.
Hmm.
And then you're just like plagued by stupid decisions for the rest of your life. And you're like, why'd I do that? And you're like, yeah, because you couldn't discern that it
Hmm.
wasn't you, bro. It's just a thought.
Right.
A
Right.
thought is not you. Crazy, right? And then
Hmm.
like you think about going to anime Jujutsu Kaisen when they're like demons are just like this one bad idea that just kept growing and growing and growing, and now they have a demon. And then you need like the Jujutsu Kaisen or like an exorcist to like get the demon out, right? Maybe.
Right.
Like, what do you think? And that's why we have a sick world. You know what I mean? Like, why do you have so many people like money grabbing for like like you have these like oligarchs like with
Hmm.
all there's millions of dollars, and like America's a prime example of it. You should look at it, you're like, oh, this is crazy right now. But you're like,
Right.
how do we get there? How do we get there?
Hmm.
Well, what do you think?
I mean, these are things that have been, I think, as being a skepticism, right? It's been,
Mm.
I mean, it's not like exorcism or these things are new, right? It's been
Like,
there for a
that's
while, right?
that's where I'm getting at. I'm like, why did you guys have this the whole time? If you actually look at like skepticism, empirical science, all that stuff, it's only like the last maybe 80 years. Because we talked about Nikola Tesla, Albert Einstein, all these people, they were into the occult. And then they were using that occult to make science.
Hmm.
And then I'm like, and then
Well,
with the whole
they were
UFO
proving
thing,
the
yeah,
science, right? The thing is
they
that
were
they were
proving the
proving the
occult through
science,
science. Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. They heard it before. They're like literally Newton's laws. If you go read the Emerald tablets, they're identical, action
Hmm.
reaction. But then you find out like he was into that, and you're like, oh, okay. So you just like took an old idea and then like made it real, you
But
know?
there was other things that some of those I would say scientists believe, but it didn't come like they couldn't prove it, right?
Right. But this is where I think we're at an apex for 2025, which is like, what's real? Let's put the science behind it. That's why I'm so interested in UFOs. I'm
Hmm.
like, if they're real or not, bro, just let us know, but put the science behind it. That's
Right.
why I'm like the Skywatcher thing. They just dropped it yesterday, I think, part two. So like the documentary of Skywatcher HQ, they put that out, and then that was just like teaser, and then they put an article on X, and they said like the next step within the 4 to 6 weeks is we're gonna make do an empirical study, using Gary Nolan, who's like a Nobel Prize nominee, as the bedrock for how we're gonna gauge this thing. Like he's making the scientific thing where he's like, it's just gonna be undeniable. So like, all right, let's run the experiment. So like within 4 to 6 weeks, they're gonna like release the data of their experiment. So I'm like you said, it's like those things, like some are proven, some are not. But it's like, but what is there? We
Hmm.
just like dismissed everything through this whole scientific revolution. And I think now we're hitting this point where we're like, okay, we need to go back to that. I really think that The Matrix came out in like 1999, right? And they're talking about that being the golden age. And
Hmm.
like really thinking about it, it was the golden age of like obviously we didn't have like PayPal and like all that stuff. Like we didn't really have like all this technology. Technology is amazing, right? But I think the reason why it was a golden age is we weren't sucked into the media, like into the internet, but we had that option. We could play outside.
Yeah.
We were still like nature and technology. It was still like there was like a bit of a balance because you're. And I think that as we move forward, like going forward in 2025, it's like we're gonna find more balance between nature and technology. So maybe we'll hit another golden age, you know?
Right.
Because like, do you feel that too? Like, it's been almost too skeptical. This is the thing, though. You and I were like very no. It has to be science, bro.
Hmm.
Right? Like, if you can't prove it with science, it's like
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
what's the validity? It's all just like anecdotal. That's why I wanted to like see the extra like um a personal story, but like I'll like swim through it. Somebody I know was possessed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like possessed by a demon, and then they like did the exorcism, and then they got this is back in the Philippines, and like then they got it out, right? And then when I asked my uncle, like, oh, what are those trees? Like, they're acacia trees. I'm like, okay, they're high in DMT, so like maybe something happened, right? But then my mom, she was like, no, it's definitely a parasite. So as a kid, I was listening to this crazy like demonic possession, and then my mom's like, it's a parasite because she's a nurse, right? So I was like, okay, that makes sense. Like, yeah, of course it's a parasite, like
Right.
But then
Mm-hmm.
now
Mm-hmm.
it's like it might not have been a parasite, but we are entering into the part of like psychics now. Remember the last podcast? Like psychics are how you pilot these UAP vehicles. So you're like, okay, so we know psychics are
Right.
real to
Yeah,
some
yeah.
degree. So what the hell does that mean, bro? I need some science to like tell,
Mm-hmm.
maybe there is a scientific component to this spiritual thing. It's magic until it's proven through science. And then you're like, oh, it's just like this. Just textbook, write it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like that too? Like we're hitting that age or like
Hitting what age?
where esotericness is coming back into the forefront of science. Like it's like we're not dismissing everything now. Like if you told me like 20 years ago psychics, actually no, I would have believed it because like I
Right.
was a kid and I loved anime. Maybe like 10 years ago, like give me 13 years ago or something like during my yoga
Mm-hmm.
days when I was trying to like dismiss like trying to verify what I knew through yoga but with science.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I feel like the possibilities are more infinite now. Like
Sure.
you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah. Okay.
it's almost like oh okay you have everything figured out. Okay yeah, string theory. Okay yeah, like quantum physics. Okay yeah, like oil. Like that's the best we're gonna get. You know.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like wait maybe it's not just that path we can take. You know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
Right.
like there's more like in terms of the oil. I was listening to this other dude talk about it. This is the craziest story again. So he was a construction worker, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then during COVID, he got really into UFOs. This is gonna sound like you're gonna be like, this is a stupid story. I agree with you. I'm like, this is insane. So he got into UFOs. Then he was delving so deep into like UFOs that a blue UFO person, or like an alien, basically, met with him and like downloaded like instructions to create basically anti-grav.
Mm-hmm.
This is the podcast I'm listening to right now. He's on American All with Me. And this is not the first time. A lot of people said they got downloads and they can like write these certain things out. And like, so again, it sounds crazy. Like he's a construction worker that got a download and then now he's writing these like theories on, they call them scalar waves. And that's what's going to allow us to beat gravity, right? And then you're like, okay, there's no validity here. It's just a random dude on YouTube, right? But then the government started like asking him to do talks because he's actually venturing down the correct path. And he's starting to meet with people who are like interested in what he has to say. And it's like very aligning with that Chinese PhD person who like she got a contract from the CIA and then she went missing and then she's supposed to be back in China. Remember like the thing?
Yeah, yeah, but she was never
The,
missing though. But yeah.
oh, shoot, what happened? You found out? You delved more deep into that?
Yeah, in that video was there. She never. She was always in America. She just
Oh,
couldn't.
okay.
So the reason they're saying she supposedly missing is just because she wasn't publishing anything. But by her contracts, she can't publish anything.
You know what's crazy about that? So the no publishing thing. one thing that they said, because he had like American Alchemy. Jesse Michael's the best, bro. He's like so good. Because he's just remember these like the Peter Thiel investor, and then like he just made a bunch of money, and he's like, okay, I
Hmm.
could surf for the rest of my life. And then like the UFO came up, and he was like, what's going on? 2018, and he's just like, all right, let me just make enough money. Like he loaded for the rest of his life. So now he's just like on the hunt for UFOs because like he's like, well, what else do I do with my time? You know what I mean?
Right.
So one thing that he said was a big tell if a scientist is on to the correct thing is they stop publishing because you know that they were contacted by somebody in the government and they had to write like an NDA or something, and
Yeah,
now they
they
just
just
stop
can't
putting out
publish.
papers.
If you're working on secret stuff, you just can't publish. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And he's like, that's the biggest tell. So she's obviously onto something. So then they were getting this guy, um, the construction worker.
I think she created her own company.
Oh,
That's
I didn't
and then the
delve too deep
contracts were
in
with the government
that
or
company.
whatever. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that company still exists.
Oh, wow. Okay, okay, cool. Yeah, because you create like patents and then you can just make money off those things. Okay, okay. So with this download that this guy got, and he wasn't the first one. Now we take Jake Barber, the guy who
Hmm.
is literally bringing the Skywatcher guy. He was literally bringing these UFO crafts around and like transporting them. That was his like, and he was like knock right, like a spy, but nobody knew. And he's like, oh, one thing I want to bring up, which is really cool, is the Gracie Jiu Jitsu Academy that he is like partial owner for. Um, they have Eskrima, like Filipino martial arts, in their system. They have Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do in their system, and they have Gracie Jiu Jitsu. I'm like, yeah, because those are the trifectas of martial arts, bro, of self defense, and it makes
Hmm.
sense because he's like a knock, right? Like you're a spy, you want to put like the best martial arts out there. All right, but so anyways, so his story is as he was going towards the craft, an entity entered him, and he started to cry, and then he
Hmm.
was just like, oh my God, I'm filled with love, whatever, whatever. And then he's like, I'm protected by this entity now. So as I do this UAP disclosure, I know I'll be okay because this entity is protecting me. Okay. So we're talking about downloads from aliens, the construction worker. We're talking about a guy who's on a mission because of what he knew, like from this
Hmm.
NHI, like that entered his body. Now we talk
Yeah.
about Jesus, bro.
Hmm.
Jesus went to Egypt, got a download, and he came back to Jerusalem to teach people how to free themselves from sins. What the hell? Like this sounds like a biblical story right now. Like the two people who got like the download, because like remember, I don't know if you know this, but like Jesus once he died and he resurrected, those people, like his 12 disciples, were going to spread out the word of God, right? And they're like, well, how can we spread the word? And then the Holy Spirit entered them and they can talk in any language now. They can like talk in
Hmm.
tongues,
Right.
right? So you're just like, at first I was like, this is a total made up story, whatever, whatever. But now I'm like, wait, this is lining up a lot with what's happening right now. And I'm not saying that I'm turning Christian or Catholic. I'm just saying that it's weird that this is all aligning.
Right.
And like with the UFO thing, a lot of people are flocking back into Catholicism, Christianity.
Hmm.
And I'm like, one thing that they said, and I'm seeing it too, is like, is the UFO our new religion? Are we going to turn them into gods?
I mean, it's possible. Yeah.
I
It's of
know,
course it's
right?
possible. Yeah.
Because you're like, this is lining up with a biblical, literally, like
Hmm.
he gets a download, he's flooded with love, the Holy Spirit, and now he's on a mission to show the world the truth about UFOs.
Hmm.
Dog, this is what? And then the other guy, like, who's never studied, um, like, he's never studied science. He's like, I failed math in high school. That's why he's a construction worker. He's like, I just laborer, right? And then all of a sudden he's doing like computational mathematics that are like on par with government officials, and they're bringing him in because like, dude, you know something.
Hmm.
And then they're like, yeah, other downloads have happened. Like he talks about it, and like I was listening to the podcast, and he's just so certain, you know. He's just explaining it to Jesse Michaels, and Jesse Michaels is like, oh yeah, that lines up with what this guy's saying, and it's like, how'd you go from not knowing anything to all of a sudden knowing stuff? And he said like it was from a download. Like the alien gave me all the information.
Hmm.
What's going on? What's your take? It's crazy, right? Because you're like, okay, what the
Yeah,
hell
no, no.
is this reality, bro?
It's like it sounds like like someone. What was it? Where it's like if someone has a seizure or something, when then she starts
Taking all
speaking
the
a different language. Like, how did she
yeah, yeah,
learn that
yeah,
language, right? It's like that was part of the download.
exactly.
Looks like.
Yeah, dude, I know, right? Dude, okay, okay. You know what's even crazy about that? You hear the telepathy tapes? It's like hitting the internet.
Yeah,
It
I
came
heard
out in
of that. Yeah,
2024.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of boring. I'm like, oh, just give me a documentary, bro. So it's
All
like
I mean, the
10.
only thing I would say is that it's some interesting stuff, but I think they still have to peer review those sort of things.
Totally. And this is why I love 2025. We're all like peer review, peer review, peer review. But now scientists are like, there's something to peer review. As long as there's a correlation, we can study it. Right?
True.
That's what Gary Nolan said. Like, I just want like with even if I don't see the UFO, if I can prove that there's a correlation, I can study it now.
Hmm.
Right? Because correlation figure out the causation.
Sure, sure.
So like with the telepathy tapes, right? So one thing that they said is um I was listening to like not the podcast itself, just people who listen to the podcast, and they were like, the podcast is kind of boring. I don't know. Like, I was trying to listen, I was like, oh,
It
I
was like
need
a number one
visuals.
podcast for a while, right? I
It was,
remember.
but yeah, yeah, because like it's like because it's crazy. Like it's like the reason why is because she set up an experiment that is so difficult to like. There's like no holes in her experiment. And that's how they prove that they're actually telepathic. Because a lot of people were like, I think my kid is telepathic, right? So she set up an actual experiment where it's like random number generator, sort of like show you the number and then you'll look at it and the person will say the number. So it's because it's random, it's almost impossible.
Hmm.
Do you know that the random thing is based off of the quantum physics like superposition thing? It's just a
No.
random thought. So like yeah, like the whole like infinite possibilities.
Hmm.
They're using that to create. I thought it was like some statistical model or something, like just a program, like blah blah blah. But they're using like the decay of the isotope, something like that. Well, you know what? I'm just not even gonna delve there. I just heard it anecdotally. I was like, that's kind of cool. But okay, so with this, so they'll see a random number. They'll say in their head, and the friggin' the non-speaking autistic person will just like type out the thing
Hmm.
in real freaking time. You're like, okay, that's crazy. Like four,
Yeah.
six, over and over and over. So they're like, okay, there's a correlation here, but they believe it's psychic ability. Like, but okay, here's the thing. Okay, let's talk about psychics now. So again, I'm like, because I've been cold read before. I knew this dude before, like the yoga teacher. His dad was a magician, and then he's like, "You want to see something cool?" I'm like, "Yeah, for sure." And then he cold read me, like, "Oh, you're an
Yeah.
active
Yeah.
person." Da, 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 da. And I was like, "Oh my god, these are all true." And then he was like, "That's magic. Don't believe it." I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, I just." And then he started to go through the reasons why he picked those things. I'm like, "Oh my god, that's crazy, right?" So I was like, "No, like you're not." But then listening to other things, so like you have magicians, and then you have like psychic abilities, and then people are like, we developed these because we couldn't speak. Like everyone had it, but before there was written language, we had like some telepathic ability, but it wasn't like movie-ish, it's
Yeah.
literally
Yeah.
for hunting. It's like the buffalo are here, cool. Oh,
Hmm.
there's the thing there, watch it. It's like strictly survival. Okay. And then now people are utilizing it again. So with the telepathy thing, when I heard that, I was like this was independent of the telepathy thing, right? Like Joe McMoneagle, seer number 001 of the Stargate program, like the best psychic spy ever. He's the one who said like, no, we can all do this. That's why I want to go to the Monroe Institute myself, like in the future, to like see like, okay, well, is it real or not? Like, well, can
Hmm.
I do something with it? Right. So like if we all have this ability and then those non-speaking autistics had to use it because they're like, I can't tell you I'm
Yeah. There's no how
hungry,
else do they communicate? Yeah.
how else do they communicate? Right? So it's like what is that, bro?
Hmm.
Like we were for so long, we're like, no, telepaths aren't real. But media was telling us the whole time. Like you look at anime, you look at remember the movie Push?
Yeah.
Right? So like if you people don't know what that is like it's a Chris Evans movie. Those were all CIA program psychics.
Hmm.
That's what that movie's about. Like they used psychic abilities and like they all had like their own psychic quirk, right? But they were all a part of the CIA program.
Hmm.
And you're just like, wait, that's very akin to what they're coming out with now, which is like they've been using psychics for a while.
Right.
So you're like, dog, were you telling us the whole time? Right? But like now we're in 2025 and you're just like, what do I believe? Like what is this disclosure? Because like what it is like maybe the disclosure that we're looking at, we're like, just tell us aliens are real. But it's the questions that come after that they're really worried about. It's not like like sure, all right, let's take the energy thing away. Sure, that's one problem that's going to come out of this, like 0 point. But if you tell us that aliens are real, then we're like, well, how are you piloting the vehicles? Oh, psychics. Wait. Psychics? What about psychics? And then you have all these other things that you have to explain. You're like, yeah, psychics are real. Wait. I have psychic abilities? You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, oh yeah, the collapse of the wave function. If you believe it to be real, it'll happen. You're like, what? You know,
Right.
maybe that's even what like the placebo effect is. You're collapsing the wave function. You believe that this thing is working, so it just works,
Hmm.
right? I don't know if this is a true, like, I don't know the validity of the story, but you told me this a long time ago. I think you heard it from your dad, but like, they were killing these people in like India, like, I don't know, it was like an experiment or something, but like, they said that they're injecting venom into the
No, it's not
person.
from my dad. Somebody else. But
Oh,
it's just like
okay.
I don't know if that's a true story though.
Okay, let's
But I remember
theoretically,
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, the whole uh, making them believe it was snake venom. Right? Is that
And
the
then
one you're
they
talking about?
died. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Then
then
they
they
died, but it
died.
was like venom in the system.
Yeah, and you're
Or
like,
right.
what? Right, but now see those things were like, but how would it possibly? I maybe you would die from like a heart attack, but how could you have venom in your system?
Hmm.
But you know what I mean? That's where our train of thought is going. Like, how is that possible? But then it's like this whole collapsing of the wave function thing. Like, you make it real just by believing it to be real. Like the observer, once we observe that thing, like we bring it into
Yeah.
existence. It's like, dude, is that what happened?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? But then, like, so many more questions from that. It's like, okay, what else can we manifest into reality? If
Right.
you get the whole earth believing one thing, can we bring that into existence?
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Sure.
What if we're like, oh yeah, aliens, UFOs are real. And the whole earth believes that UFOs are real. Boom, we
Hmm.
see a freaking giant UFO here the whole time. You're like, what the frig?
Yeah, it was always here. Right.
It was always here, but it was just one. It was just on a different dimension.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
couldn't come over into physical reality. It was like a thought
I mean, this
dimension.
is like the cave theory, right? We haven't
Oh,
turned
interesting.
around. Like the whole we're just looking at our shadows. You don't realize it's shadows, but there's
Oh,
more to
yes,
the.
yes,
It's
yes.
from the sunlight that's doing that, right?
And totally, bro. So you're like, okay, when the person the Plato's allegory of the cave, right? So like we're seeing cave paintings, like physical reality. Yeah, totally. Yeah, just wanna earn
Hmm.
money, you know. And then like you leave the cave, and then you're like, dude, there's a whole world out there. And you come back, and then you're like, dude, there's like things that are creating the shadow,
Hmm.
right? But nobody thinks about the things. They're all obsessed with the allegory of the cave, like paintings.
Yeah.
But it's like, what is this other world? And maybe leaving the cave is believing it,
Hmm.
thus collapsing the wave function, and then thus you seeing more things, right?
Right.
So like, I was watching Constantine again because like now I'm just into like angels and demons and shit. I'm like, what, bro? What's going on, right? So like I went back and I watched Constantine, and he was seeing it the whole time, but he saw it as a kid. He could see demons the whole time, right?
Hmm.
And then there's a story of Constantine. Then he kills himself, and then he comes back to life. They resuscitate him, and the devil wants him because. So like no, so then after that he realized that everything's real. So he becomes like an exorcist. He starts sending demons back to hell. And the devil wants him because he's like sending too many demons, and he's like, but once you die, you're coming to hell because you committed the ultimate sin of killing yourself.
Right.
Right? That's the storyline, right? But now I'm like, if you really believed it, and then now you're seeing demons all over, maybe you really are seeing demons all over, bro.
Hmm.
Like, but maybe they are there. We just don't see it.
Right.
Like think about this. Like maybe it's not even like visible thing. Maybe it's like a feeling. Maybe it's another sense, right? Like, because we're like, oh, I see demons. It's like,
Hmm.
do you like literally like your retina, like the photon is like bouncing off the demon, jumping back to you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, do you really see it, or are you like
It's the
seeing it in
aura
an
or an
the
aura of
aura of the
somebody.
demon?
Yeah.
Okay, the aura of somebody. So now, how many times have you met somebody? You're like, oh, that person got demons, bro.
Hmm. Yeah, you got a
Right?
feeling. Yeah, yeah.
So is that the seeing that they're talking about? Like, oh, demons are all around, and it's
I would
like
assume. I would. I mean, I'm gonna lean towards that direction.
it's not visible, but it's
Right.
like you can feel it. There's like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
demon, bro.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so couple years ago, so I know someone who is like professionally, they're like a psychic, and one of the things that not like a psychic, like oh, I'm gonna read the numbers, right? Of like the lotto. They're like a psychic healer. Okay, so
Hmm.
they like help. Okay, I'm gonna say this in an arbitrary way. So this person met this psychic person, and this person was like, "Oh, you have a lot of demons." Right? And they're like, "Ooh, that's weird."
Hmm.
So then they
Hmm.
removed them, and then all of a sudden they became like nicer, right? Like totally different thing, right? And but like, what was that switch? Like, is there really an aura there? Can you really pull it off? Can you can you really, because like before and after, completely 180. This person became a totally different person, you know? And you're just like, what's that, bro?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I was like 2 years ago, I'm like, no, it's not real. But now I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing that? Because you can sense it. Like you just said, it's like, oh, you got like a weird aura. So it's
Right.
like, can you see the aura and pull the aura out? I don't know. Is that real? Like,
I I don't know about pulling the aura out. I wonder. I mean, is it like so is it psychiatry? You know, it's like when they.
Mm. No, they're not a psychiatrist. They're just like, they're like, give you like an energy healing. Like it's like a,
Yeah, yeah, that's
okay,
what I'm saying. I'm
now
like that's
release.
part of the. Maybe that's what they needed something like that to make them feel okay. I don't know
Yeah.
what their energy level was, what kind of, you know what I mean, like, or trauma or pain that they were in, right?
Right. It's almost like accept what happened, let it go.
Hmm.
Right? Like a
Yeah,
psychiatrist could do the same thing. It's like,
exactly.
except,
Yeah,
like, yeah, of course, we're going to relive the trauma, is what it is, reframe the narrative.
yeah,
Right? So maybe it's that path, right? But regardless of the mechanism, whether it being oh, accept your trauma, et cetera, what I'm really curious about is like this aura that you even admitted you feel. We all feel it.
hmm,
And then like being able to switch that aura. You're just like, does it require so much talk therapy, or is it just like I can pull it out of you? And you're like, dude, pulling out of like what is that,
well, I
bro?
think I think that's part of the whole science thing, right? So
Mm,
there was no psychiatry stuff before, so this is
right. Yeah,
based on
yeah.
the science, and this is the stuff that worked.
Yes. 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 There is like we can't articulate it.
Yeah,
Like
well, I mean, I
science is
don't
like
have
the
the knowledge of it to
articulation.
understand it, but yeah, I think it's, but that was the point of, because there was no idea of this psychiatry or anything like that before,
Right, yeah. There
right?
was
The
just like
only,
witch doctors.
yeah, but it's like
Yeah.
that's the whole idea of the science and proved what works and what doesn't work,
Right. Right.
right?
Totally. Totally. But now another thing that I'm like entering into, which is like a very like tip of the spear, which is like, why do we think that our physical reality is the be all end all? Because science is just physical
Sure.
calculation.
Yeah.
You know, like when you talk about science, it's like, no, it's a physical property.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
we can measure it. It's physical. But what about the non physical? That's when people are just like, oh, it's woo woo. It's not real. But you're like, is it
Well,
not
it's
real?
up to
Because a
the individual to
lot of
believe that,
things.
but science will never talk about the other stuff. So you have to understand the limitations of where the science is at, right?
Yeah.
So the science is not disagreeing, or they're not like, I would say they're not attacking the other thing. They can only talk about the evidence of numbers that they can get. That's it,
Yes.
right? So all the other
Yes.
stuff is That's up in the air, I would say. Right.
Right. And why are we limiting our trust in reality based off of one measurement? That's where I'm at. It's like science. Totally, I'm with you, science, bro. But like, there's other things that science can't measure.
Sure.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, one thing that one thing that I think is really interesting is Terrence Howard brought this up, but it's not just him, but like there's a lot of people who have been doing this thing
Mm-hmm.
within this UFO sphere, which is it's one thing to make a mathematical formula, and it's another thing to create a proof of concept.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, math says this, but can you make it real?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's almost this is how I'm like taking science. Science is like the math says this, but can you make it work? And that's the part where I'm like, there's all these things that are working, but science hasn't caught up fast enough to be like this. You know what I mean? Like this is real, that's not real. This is real, that's not real. Like science, because science is an after the fact.
Sure.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm
It's
saying?
God of the gaps thing. Right.
You're right. And yeah, totally. And you need money to invest in science. So it's
Of
like
course.
if they
Yeah.
don't see a correlation, then it's like that's why I like the Skywatcher thing. They're all millionaires. They're like, oh, we're just gonna put our money together and like prove UFOs exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like what I'm at is like there's a bunch of things that are real and we just haven't had the time or the resources to study how that mechanism works, but we know it works. You know what I mean? Like the math is like
Yeah, yeah. There's something that's there, but we don't know how necessarily. We don't know how it
there's a proof
exactly
of
works, but
concept.
it's something is working. Yeah.
There's a proof of concept, and you're just
Mm-hmm.
like, dog, this is a thing,
Yeah.
but like we just haven't figured out the math, or the math is saying this shouldn't work, but then Terrence Howard made this thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You're like, how that work?
Yeah.
He made it, but you said it wouldn't be possible,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's like we we in 2025 have opened the door to like way more unknowns simply because we started looking at the UFO issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you weren't looking at UFOs, you just like were alone in the universe. Oil and gas is the ultimate thing we're gonna do, and like you know what I'm saying? It's almost like we are in disclosure right now,
Right.
or maybe like no, I mean like how they're like don't tell anyone, like catastrophic disclosure. We're like don't tell anyone the aliens exist, right? Because it'll like ruin everything. And it's almost like just even opening the door to like, wait a minute, you just said aliens are real. Okay, let me just read down this path. And you're like, whoa, we have a lot of limitations that we don't understand now. Right. And it's like, that's more catastrophic because it's like, why am I going to work for this thing? Why am I doing this thing?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Yeah. With the limited time we have left, it's related to this. So like, now that we know all this, that there's just a bunch of like, what's going on, you know? I haven't fully finished yet, but there's a book called I mentioned before, Die with Nothing, or Die with Zero,
Yeah, I
something
think
like that.
so. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Right. So like I'm reading through it because I was like, that makes no sense. Like, why would you die, like wasting all your money, right? And one thing he said in the book, and I was like, okay, that verifies the book for me, which is I said die with nothing. I didn't say die with nothing, have nothing before you die.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like no, you just can't take it with you. So just like use it, but like don't hit zero and then you're like, oh damn, I have nothing left.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I was
Right.
like, okay, when I heard that, I was like, okay, that makes way more sense, bro. It's more like it caught you with the title, and then when you're reading the actual thing, you're like, okay, all right, there's practicality
Right.
here.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like the main takeaway that I've gotten so far, and I'm like, but this is kind of how I lived it because my parents were like this. Whereas um, like you can't take it with you when you're gone, right? So like, might as well use it because what is life? At the end of the day, it's a culmination of your experiences,
Mm-hmm.
right? And one thing you're saying is like, we don't retire on money, we retire on our memories,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you're like, oh, I'm so frail. Like, there's like excerpts in the book where it's like, my dad's 86 and he doesn't want to leave the house. Right? It's like, okay, so what memories do you have? You're in the house, so what memories are you going to
Right.
live through? you know?
Mhm.
Like, for example, like this podcast, like we're gonna be like 90 and then we can go listen to these and we're like, oh, remember what we used to do? You know what I mean? Like they're just
Right, right,
memories.
right.
Because that's all there is, just
Yeah.
memories. Your life is just memories, right?
Mhm.
And but we for some reason got co-opted by the game, which is like numbers. We're literally living in a world right now where we don't even have physical money.
Mhm.
Like I remember I saying like we all use card, bro. Like I don't have money to donate to like physical cash.
Sure.
Like I wish you had tap, right? Like so it's just numbers we're really working with right now, right?
Mhm.
And it's crazy to me that if life, if at the end of this, you realize that it was just consciousness playing a simulation or a game, it's just, you know what I mean? Like, how bad would you feel if you're like, my game was spent doing nothing?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, so GSP had an ayahuasca experience. This would be really cool one day too, but like I don't know, need to make sure it's like safe. But he had one, right? And then he was saying that like when he got pulled out, he met this like keyhole entity, and he was saying that that entity was saying that I am you and I'm everything. I'm the universe. And he's like, show me what the reality is. And then he kept like zooming out to space, whatever. And he's like, oh, this is too much information. And then like it brought him back to his body. Okay. So when he said like I am you, I'm everything, I'm like, that's what spirituality says. We are the universe realizing itself.
Mhm.
Right? Like we are the universe.
Yeah.
Like physically we are the universe. Like if you look at the periodic table, everything in us is in like nature. Like where
Yeah.
did you come from? You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we're in the
carbon,
universe, so we're part
hydrogen.
of the universe, right?
Right. And I wrote this article before, like, where do you go when you die? And people are like, oh, you go to heaven, whatever, whatever. And it's like, no, the real question is, why are you asking that question? Because what do you mean, where do you go? You
Mhm.
didn't leave. You are still the universe. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
like my body's still here somewhere. Energy can't be created or destroyed. It's
Mhm.
within this vacuum called the universe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So like, so we know that we are the universe realizing itself. What does
Mhm.
that mean? Because I'm literally telling you, oh, you're the universe. You're like, oh, dude, I just realized I'm the universe,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? Same train of thought, right? So now the question is, what do you want to do with your time? If you know that you're the universe, people are like, oh, I'm God, right? God, universe, same thing. So if you know that you're God, if you know that you're in the universe, if you know that you're playing some conscious video game, literally called life, like, what do you want to do with your time,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
And this is the beautiful experience of being alive, which is like, do whatever you want, bro. But then you have society trapping you into this game where it's like, work 9 to 5, do this thing. I'm not saying that those things aren't, we have to play within the rules that we're given. So, like, okay, cool, I need money. Cool, gotta make money. But you can't be living just for that thing,
Mhm.
or else you've been like, you've wasted your time.
Yeah.
'Cause, right? We're all like, we all unplug. And then, like, if we are all the universe, like, in the next iteration of this reality, I'm like, hey, what'd you do with your time? You're like, oh, it's did nothing. You're like, oh, cool. I
Right,
went
right, right.
here, 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 here. And you're like, dude, that sounds like a sicker video game. You know,
Mhm.
and you're like, oh, friggin', why didn't you do it? Oh, because I got tricked by the devil into thinking that this is not, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Right.
And then going back to biblical, angels, demons, the devil. So, like, if you go to the Bible, right? God created humans, and the devil was jealous of humans because he's like, why'd you give humans like free will to do whatever they want, right? Why'd you let the humans play the video game? And
Mhm.
that's why the devil got pissed because like the angels and demons can't play the video game on
Yeah,
our
they're
physical reality
right.
because they're just like spiritual entity, like it's just an aura, right?
Mhm.
So like this whole idea of like angels and demons trying to like push thoughts in our head, maybe they just want to play the video game too, bro. They're
Mhm.
just like, try this, bro, try this, try it, like you know what I mean? But
Well, they're
like,
having their fun of their video game by trying to influence us.
yeah, it's right, right,
Right. Because that's
yeah,
all they can do.
exactly.
Right.
Because they're not physical manifestations
Right. Yeah.
unless we believe them, and then they collapse the wave function. Then all of a sudden, demons enter our reality. I'm like, oh my god, we gotta fight the demons for
Mhm.
real.
Mhm.
And that'd be a real video game though. Like imagine, but that's the Yu Yu Hakusho freaking storyline, bro. That there's like a demon world, physical world, and there's like a another world, right? and like they can't cross over into our world because
Yeah.
there's like a doorway, and is the doorway our consciousness? Because we you just like refuse to believe that they're real, so it's like okay, you stay where you are,
Yeah. 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 Right.
right? But then as soon as you're like, oh, demons are real, and they start
Hmm.
seeing them everywhere, like physical, they can touch me now, bro. You know,
Yeah.
The Exorcist said this thing, and I was like, it sounds crazy, but like I don't know. So like he said that when he decided, so he was a Wall Street guy, like doing a lot of sinning. Then he wanted to convert to Catholicism to like repent on his sins, so he did. And then this one priest was like, I want you to be an exorcist, and he's like, okay, I'll do it. And then he's like, but watch out, the devil's gonna try and trick you. And he's like, what do you mean? So then he leaves the church, and then there's a guy like, hey, we should get a drink. And the guy's like, dude, it's 10 in the morning. Like, I'm not gonna get a drink with you. And
Hmm.
then he just like he starts walking away, and the guy just staring at him laughing. And then he goes back to the priest, he's like, dude, there's this guy outside. He's like, oh, I told you the devil's gonna try that. And I'm like, okay, if that was real, is that what's going like, you know what I mean? Like they can't cross over. So they're using like
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah. That's the story, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. They have to use
us as
us.
vehicles.
Sure. Yeah, yeah,
Am I about to be Catholic again? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you doing, bro? Like, but I don't think it's like, I don't think religion's the way. I think it's just more like, why are these stories here? Why is it lining up? You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
Sure.
it makes
Yeah, yeah.
sense. Like, they are just implanting thoughts. Maybe that was a random dude who's just homeless, and like the devil's like, hey, say this to this dude, please. And
Hmm.
he's like, yeah, sure, sure, sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
what are
yeah.
these whispers that you hear all the time?
Right.
I mean, I've never heard a whisper, but like when they say like, oh, they're whispering thoughts into your head.
Hmm.
The jinn, dude, it's not even in Catholicism. It's in like all religions, like the jinn, the evil genies,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like in the, I think that's the Muslim religion though, so that's technically Abrahamic still, but
yeah.
um, you know what I mean? But you know, like
Sure.
or like in Hinduism, have you heard of a similar thing?
There probably is. I just not something I'm familiar with.
But it's there, right? And then you're like, but
Yeah,
why
yeah.
is it there?
Hmm.
You know, like if the universe is like billions of years old, and
Hmm.
we've only been on Earth for like let's say 100,000 years old, how do we know that there aren't other things? Like, how do we know that this is the be all end all?
Right.
You know,
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
like the physical reality. I mean,
Hmm.
like, how do we know that those thoughts aren't real? A lot of people say that, like scientists and stuff. They're like, I just got this idea in my head. Like, I made it.
Hmm.
Like Steve Jobs. Like, where'd that idea come from? Like to make the Apple thing,
Right.
right? Like, you're like, was that a good spirit? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I understand. Yeah.
yeah. So with all that being said, what do you think? Crazy? Not crazy? I was tripping over this the whole week. I was like, what is going on, bro?
I mean, I,
What?
I don't know. I mean, there was a time when all these mysticism stuff was, I don't know, I think relatively famous, but I wasn't there at the time, like in the 70s and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But then that was where, like, we probably also need someone like James Randi to be back as well to figure out what's actually true and not true.
The magician dude?
The magician dude, yeah,
Okay, yeah.
right?
There's
Because
another magician. There's another dude. I forgot who it is, but he's doing the exact same work, and he got into UFOs because he's a magician. So he's like, no, I know the tricks, but he's like, I can't figure this one out. So he's like all into UFOs right now. I forgot the dude's name. You know what I'm talking about?
no, I don't know.
He's a Canadian magician.
But like that's like the like we would need someone like that too, because there's going to be a lot of within this stuff. I think there'll be a lot of stuff that's actually not true. So how do
100%.
we,
How do we vet it, bro?
yeah, how do we vet it? Like that? There was because I remember from James Randi thing was just like this guy has telepathy, so he can like move a paper, right, or like change that. I
Yeah.
don't know if you remember. There was a video where it's like a yellow pages or something, and like he can make the page turn,
That's cool. No, I didn't know
right?
about this, but
Yeah.
okay.
So then, as a way to, it's like as a way to, because he's a magician, kind of knows some of the tricks. So he's like, okay, let me put some styrofoam around it, light styrofoam.
Oh,
So if
interesting.
you are actually doing telepathy, then you can just move the page. Nothing else will shift. Now, if you are using like slight wind, like there's a way you can blow, I guess, and get that sheet to turn, make it seem like telepathy. So that's why you put the styrofoam, and then he didn't do it. It's like, oh, I don't have the energy, I can't do it.
Oh, interesting.
So we need people like
Wait,
that. I feel like that's also what needs to come back.
wait, hold on, wait. Collapsing the wave function. What if he was serious though when he's like, "Oh, I don't have the energy." It's because there's so much disbelief against belief. So the
Yeah, no,
guy,
they gave him the time or whatever it may be. So it's just like it's he can do it another day or whatever it was. Just
in
never
that
did it.
moment,
Yeah,
yeah.
because he did it
Would
already.
you?
He did it first, or he did it
Yeah.
already, and then okay, let's put the styrofoam and try it again.
Yes. So we do need more people like that.
That's what I'm
That's
saying.
true.
I think we need people
Yeah.
like that that were that saw like all this was happening, but now let's because he put up the $1 million to
Yeah.
prove that you do have these skills.
Some paranormal
Yeah.
ability.
Yeah. And for those many years, I think it's still up. Some other fund is still up. Even 500,000, I think, is still there to prove these
But no way to do
paranormal.
it.
No one's can do it. No one can do it.
Enter Skywatcher, where they put up their own money and they're going to like that. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I
Like
get
we
it, but
do
it's
need
like again,
some
it's
sort
like
of
yeah. There's a
no,
way.
no. Like we need some validation here. Like we
Sure.
need science to tell us. Like
Yeah, because he saw that was the shift that was happening, and he believed it was all trickery. So that's why he put it
oh,
up,
interesting.
right?
Yeah.
Because he was a magician. He saw like people were being lied to. So that was the whole.
Right. Yes.
So this was the reason he did that. So no one from that time could prove it.
Interesting. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, we need like a magician to like
We
somebody
need
who's like
someone like
very
that again.
skeptical
Yeah,
who knows the
yeah.
tricks. Yeah. Totally agree with you. Yeah. It jogged my memory. Last things because I
Hmm.
really gotta go. Um, Apparently Jesus, like this is one of the stories that I heard is that he learned these techniques in Egypt, came back, right? But a lot of it was like magic, and he said
Hmm.
like don't tell anyone because at that time they were killing magicians because like
Hmm.
they were fooling people into like thinking these things are real, just like the James Randi thing, right?
Right.
Like you can use it for nefarious means. So I think like heading into 2025, we're about to like hit another golden age of like that era of like, okay, tell me it's real or not, bro. We have
Hmm.
better tools. We need to really figure this out. But the collapse of the wave function thing is still tripping me out because I'm like, that's what Tinkerbell said, bro. You need to believe in order for me to stay alive,
All right. Yeah.
right? And you're like, Disney, did you know? You know,
No,
like,
I don't think these are old things. I think he's saying the same thing that was there before. He's just
mm,
using new terms to. He's including new terms that are now here, right?
yes, it's the hero's journey. It's like there. If you look at all the stories in like humanity, they all follow the exact same arc because like
Hmm.
that's what we are like engaged in the hero's journey. Like, oh, you gather friends and you like
Hmm. Hmm.
overcome a challenge, right? But it's the same thing, just repeated over and over in different formations.
Right.
So it's like a universal thing, like you were saying, that
Yeah.
it's always been here. We just need to repackage it so we can sell it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I really gotta go. Um, yeah. Speaking of video games, I don't know when. Oh, I think this might be the week of April.
Video
It might
games.
be like the end of March. I'm gonna, because I have like 2 weeks off from work. I'm gonna go to Montreal and play a video game of Training at TriStar. Just like, you know
Oh.
what? Might as well.
Okay.
Right? Like, I've always talked about it. So it's like,
Sure.
let's just keep playing this video game, bro. Let's see what happens, you know?
Hmm.
So we might not have a podcast, but we're still a while away. I just gotta figure out the dates. I'll let you know. But yeah. Um, all right. Till next week. Take it easy, Bish.
Peace.
Bye. All right, I hope you enjoyed that episode. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all those fun things, and check out our sponsors, Zenro Clothing Co., Portian Bakery, and Podbean. Take it easy, Fish.
Peace.